Namaste everyone. Thank you so much for being here today. Like my dad said, we will be presenting some abans and bhajans, and along the way we will be sharing some information about the composers, because a lot of times we sing the songs but we don't really know much about the composer's life, and we want to pay homage to them as well. So hopefully you will enjoy today's program.
We will be starting off with the Tulsidas Bhajan on Lord Ganesha.
Next, we will be presenting an aban. For those of you who don't know what abans are, they are part of the Varkari tradition from Maharashtra, and they are in Marathi, and they're all in praise of Lord Panduranga Pandharpur. You might know some of the renowned saints such as Sant Namdev, Tukaram Maharaj, Sant Jnaneshwar. But today's composition is by Saint Janabai. Janabai was a saint from the 13th century, and she was born into a caste that was marginalized under the traditional caste system. So she faced many social injustices during her lifetime, such as being denied entry into temples. So when Chenab Bhai was very young, maybe about 7 or 8 years old, her father brings her to Dham Shetty's house to work as a maid. And Dham Shetty was none other than Sant Namdev's father. So basically, Chenab Bhai grows up in that household along with Namdev, who was a little boy at the time that Chenab Bhai comes into the picture. And she, from a young age, she has a great love and devotion towards Panduranga. And this just grows along with her as she grows up. And along her, we have Sant Namdev, who's also growing up, great devotee. And so as Namdev is older, he's continuously singing bhajans, he's holding kirtans at his house, discourses, and Chenab Bhai gets to witness all this because otherwise she would not have an opportunity because of her caste. And so Chenab Bhai accepts Namdev as her spiritual guru and vice versa. And because of this, Chenab Bhai strongly believes that serving the Lord's devotee makes the Lord happier, and it's an easier way to reach God than to directly pray to Him. So every chore or service that she does is for Namdev. And when she's doing these chores on a daily basis, she's continuously, composing songs, she's singing, she's in prayer. And during these times, she goes into a certain mental state where she's unable to physically do any work because it's like a state of samadhi for her. And in some of her songs, she mentions that when she is in that state, Vithala has come down himself and has completed the chores on her behalf, like sweeping the floors, doing laundry for her. Such a great devotee. And in this particular Abhang, Salam Mandirata, Chenab Bhai is welcoming everybody. Let's all go to the mandir, Vithoba's mandir. And she describes how beautifully the temple is decorated with rangoli at the entrance and the beautiful flower garlands, pushpachi. And she says in the middle of the night, Ardha Ratri, the oil lamps are burning, and you can see Panduranga's beauty with his pearl necklaces. And she says, among all these worldly treasures, my Guru Namdev has found the ultimate treasure, Manika, which is Vithala, and he's placed it in Chenab Bhai's hand. This is an offering to her Guru as well by putting Namdev's name in her song, and she puts herself in the next line. A great devotee. We hope you enjoy this abang.
Ah So before we present the next song, I just want to say a few words. So we're going to be moving a little bit away from Abangs for now, and we're going to go north to explore another great female composer who is none other than Mirabai. So Mirabai starts off the Abang by saying, the bhajan by saying, let's take a pilgrimage to go visit the holy waters, Ganga and Yamuna. And let's take a dip in the pure waters, Nirmalapani, and cleanse ourselves from all of our sins. Then later on, she goes on to describe Krishna's beauty and how he wears a peacock feather in his head and how he wears a beautiful Pitamara shawl. And when he plays his flute, the bansi, he attracts everyone, the animals and the people. But the deeper meaning behind the song is Mirabai's telling us to take our hearts on a spiritual journey to the divine and turn away from all of these bad habits that humans ego, greed, anger, and jealousy, and turn our minds away from those worldly affairs and towards God. And then she ends off this song by falling at the feet of Lord Krishna and surrendering herself. So now we will present Ganga Yamuna Tira.
Talk a little bit more about Mirabai's life, maybe. चलो मन गंगा यमुना तीर 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 चलो गंगा यमुना निर्मल पानी गंगा यमुना निर्मल पानी गंगा यमुना निर्मल पानी शीतल होत शरीर चलो मन शीतल होत शरीर चलो मन गंगा यमुना तीर चलो मन गंगा यमुना तीर मोर मुकुट पीतांबर सोहे मोर मुकुट पीतांबर सोहे मोर मुकुट पीतांबर सोहे कुंडल झलकत हीर चलो मन कुंडल झलकत हीर चलो मन कुंडल झलकत हीर चलो मन गंगा यमुना तीर चलो मन गंगा यमुना तीर बंसी बजावत गावत कान्हा बंसी बजावत गावत कान्हा बंसी बजावत गावत कान्हा संग लियो बलवीर चलो मन संग लियो बलवीर चलो मन गंगा यमुना तीर चलो मन गंगा यमुना तीर मीरा के प्रभु गिरधर नागर मीरा के प्रभु मीरा के मीरा के प्रभु गिरधर नागर मीरा के प्रभु गिरधर नागर मीरा के प्रभु गिरधर नागर चरण कमल बन शीर चलो मन चरण कमल बन शीर चलो मन चरण कमल बन शीर चलो मन तीर चलो तीर चलो तीर चलो हे मन तीर चलो हे मन तीर चलो तीर चलो तीर चलो So before we go on to our next song, I would like to tell you a story. You will see how the story will connect to our composer and our song. I'm sure most of you here know who Ramakrishna Paramahamsa is. Okay. So just like many saints do, he used to go on a lot of pilgrimages. They suddenly have a desire to go visit a temple. So one such time he had a desire to visit Kashi and take darshan of Lord Shiva. And so off he went, and he usually has, few of his devotees who travel with him. And so they were there in Kashi, and they were on a boat ride on the Ganga. And it's a general common belief amongst us Hindus that anyone who passes away in Kashi is indeed fortunate; they will get moksha. And the Manikarnika God is especially known for this. Anyone whose remains are cremated to Manikarnika God, they are definitely given salvation. So anyways, when Paramahamsa was on his boat ride, all of a sudden he gets up and he goes into this state of samadhi, and he's crying uncontrollably. And all the devotees are not really sure what to do. They're just holding him, making sure he doesn't fall into the river. And they wait, and this goes on for a few minutes or so on. And then when Paramahamsa finally comes out of this state, his devotees ask him, "What happened, Paramahamsa? What did you see that made you cry so uncontrollably? Please share it with us." To which Paramahamsa said, "Kashi is indeed the holiest city. We can see God here." He said, "As all these bodies have been cremated here, I saw a dark figure come out of the temple, a feminine figure. She gently took the jyoti out of each of these bodies. She placed it on her lap, and she undid 3 knots. These 3 knots are supposed to tie a soul to this world. So untying those sets our soul free." And then he says, he sees a white light coming out of the Shiva temple, a masculine figure with long hair, and he says, "I see him whispering the Taraka mantra in each of the bodies here and absorbing the jyoti." And he says, "I couldn't control myself." So Ramakrishna, through his vision, he said, it's not just a belief, it's the truth. And the next composer we'll be seeing is Maharaja Swadhitirna of Thiruvananthapuram in Kerala. He ruled there from around 1829 to 1846, and he was an exponent of Carnatic music, Hindustani music, and he knew more than 10 languages. And he passed away at the age of 33, so he was very young when he passed away, but in his short lifetime he had composed over 400 songs in Sanskrit, Hindi, Malayalam, Telugu, Kannada. And one such time he had a desire to go to Kashi, but due to certain political circumstances or whatever, he could not. And it is said that he never went to Kashi in his lifetime. But he writes this bhajan saying that I cannot go physically, but my mind and my heart can go to Kashi and take darshan of the great Kashi Vishwanath. So just like Maharaja Swadhitirna, we are also not able to go there physically now, but let us take our minds and our hearts to Kashi and take darshan of the great Shiva who gives moksha to everyone.
Shiva
hope you're enjoying the program and the stories are not boring you. So we said that we'll talk a little bit more about Mirabai's life. You might all know a little bit about Mirabai, so some of the stuff that I say is repeating. I apologize for that. But Mirabai was born in the late 15th century in Kutki, Rajasthan, and she was born into a noble family. Her father was King Ratan Singh Rathore, and though she was born into a royal family, she faced many hardships in her life. She lost her mother when she was around the age of 4 or 5, and she also lost her dad, sometime, soon after that. So she was brought up mainly by her grandparents. And ever since Meera was a kid, she had a deep love and affection for Krishna. And this affection and love grows along with her. So when she comes of a certain age, as in those times, it's time for a girl to get married, and they get her married to a very powerful Rajput family. The Prince Bhojraj, who was the eldest son of King Rana Sanga of Mewar. They were very powerful at that time. This was the time during the Mughals times as well. So, although she was married, her heart was not in the worldly affairs. She could care less for luxuries. She didn't really care about being a Rajput queen or a wife or any of that stuff. She was spending her time singing bhajans on Krishna, praying, meditating, and this obviously didn't sit very well with her in-laws family. They were like, what is this girl doing? Is this why we brought this crazy girl here to do all this? And they tried to change her, but Meera was very steadfast in her devotion. She didn't waver from it. And it is said that there were many attempts made on Meera's life during her lifetime. But her husband was, quite supportive of her. He found her very amusing. He thought she was a very different character. But anyway, she lost her husband, in a battle. And after that, in those days, sati was pretty common. So they, especially in Rajasthan, so they asked Meera to perform the sati, and she said no. She said, he was not my husband. My eternal companion is Krishna, and he's not dead, so I don't need to perform sati. And so anyway, they sent her away, they sent her packing. They said, okay, girl, we've dealt enough with you, you can leave now. And so Meera was happy. She was like, okay, fine. She went to her hometown, and things were not much to Meera's liking there, so she was fed up, and she said, enough of this life. She said, I'm just going to go on a pilgrimage. So she goes to Vrindavan, she goes to Mathura, and finally she ends up in Dwarka. And there it is said that one day she goes into the Dwarkadish temple, the doors closed behind her. And after some time, the people there, they opened it and they saw Krishna's idol. All they saw was Meera's sari wrapped around Krishna and no Meera. She had merged into Krishna and become one. And this particular bhajan that we'll be singing of hers, Bhaga Gunguru Bhanga Meera Nachile, she says, I tie the gungrus on my feet and dance in ecstasy. I abandon this world and dance in thought of my Krishna. And in this she talks about the obstacles she faces. She says, Vishaka Pyala Rana Ji ne beja. Her father-in-law, he sends her a cup of poison to try to kill her. And Meera offers this as prasad to Krishna, and then she drinks it, nothing happens to her. And many such incidents have happened where she was saved. And then she goes on to say, Log kahe Meera bhai bhavari, naat kahe kulanasire. So, as a Rajput queen, she was, on the streets dancing and singing, in public places, and that was not fitting for a Rajput queen, because in those days you cannot even see a queen. And so people thought, this girl, this lady's crazy. What kind of a queen do we have in our kingdom? Dancing around, showing her face publicly. And her in-laws family like, oh my God, this crazy girl, she's come to just destroy our plan. And Mira could care less. She said, okay, if you want to criticize, criticize. You can think whatever you want, but I have become a dasi of my Narayana, and when I have my Giridhar, what else matters in this world? So let us try to imagine what Mira was feeling when she sang the song, and try to imagine Mira's Krishna. Adu Guru Pandit.
Just want to. Hello, again. Yeah. Just want to add on Meera. I belong to the same place where she comes from, Rajasthan, Jodhpur. It's a semi myth that she is a Krishna devotee. If that is the case, then who wrote the Pai Jivendra Ram Ratan Dhan Payo? Mera man Ram Ram Rate Ram Nam Ras Pije Banwa Krishna. It's all Meera. Right? So she is a full devotee. We have some glass of red blood, so she is a Krishna devotee, but she was a fully devotee of the Narayana, ultimate Brahma.
So for our final song of the evening, we come back to an abang. And this abang was composed by Chokamila. I'm not sure to any of you here know Chokamila. So Chokamila was from the 13th to 14th century. And it is said that he had come to Pandharpur one time with his family, and he felt at home. He felt that this is where he belonged, that he decided to stay on in Pandharpur for the rest of his life. And so he was born into the Mahar community, again another marginalized community, and they were deemed as untouchables in those times. And so he, just like Janabai, faced a lot of discrimination, social injustices during his lifetime. He was not allowed entry into the temples, but he was a great devotee of Lord Panduranga. And they were very poor. He was a laborer. So he used to go to work every day, hard day's work. He used to come back in the evening, and he used to live on the other side of the Chandrabaka River. So he used to cross the river, come this side, and stay a little further away from the temple, because if anyone sees him close to the temple, they'll shoot him away or hit him or whatever. So he used to be in hiding, he used to be just praying, singing his abhangs on Panduranga. So on one such day, he did the same thing that he always did. Came there, stayed a little further away, and then when he saw the chief priest lock up the temple and leave for the evening, and he made sure no one else was around, he used to go and stand in the temple gate. That was the furthest he could go. So he'll stand there, sing in meditation, prayers, and one day it is said that the temple gates open and out comes Panduranga. And he says, Choka, why are you standing here? Come inside. I want to spend the evening, the whole night with you, chatting, singing, whatever. And Chokamila says, my Lord, I cannot come into the temple. You know this. I belong to a very low caste. I'm not allowed. If anyone sees me, I'll be in trouble. I am fortunate to have your darshan here. To this, Lord Vitala says, who has the right to tell anyone who can enter my temple or not? This is my temple. I decide who comes in and who doesn't. He says, to me, caste, social status, gender, nothing matters to me. True heart, pure devotion is what matters, and you have plenty of that, Choka. You are worthy of coming into my temple. And it is said that he spent the whole evening with Panduranga that day. So in this, and Chokamila died a very tragic death. The building that he was working on, him and other laborers, it collapsed, and they were all crushed to death. And they just had like a mass burial or cremation. And so Namdev on the other side gets a vision where Panduranga comes and tells him, Namdev, there is a devotee of mine whose remains are this accident happened and his remains are there. And he had one last wish, and I need to fulfill it. It's my duty. And Namdev says, yes, whatever you say, my Lord, your wish is my command. Tell me what I'm supposed to do. And he says, go there, bring my devotee's remains, and I want you to bury it in front of my temple. That's what he wanted. That's what Chokamela wanted. Namdev says, okay, I can do that. But how will I know which bones belong to your devotee and it's not someone else? And Vittala says, that's very easy. Go and see any bones that are still vibrating with the name Vittala, Vittala, they belong to my devotee. Bring them here. And it is said that when Namdev went and he picked up some of the bones and kept it near his ear, they were chanting Vittala, Vittala. And it's ironic that the person who was denied entry into Panduranga's temple, now people take his darshan first before going and taking darshan of the Lord. That is the power of pure devotion and a true devotee. The Lord gives them the first preference. So in this abhang that we present, Abhira Gulala Dhalitaranga, he says, amidst the colorful powders, my friend Sakha Panduranga dances. And he said, Umbatyasi kaise shivo, am hi jati hina, rupa tuze kaise pavu, kyat am hi dina. He says, how can I come close to you? How can I touch you? I'm born in such a low caste. How do I see your roop? He said, the closest I can come to you is stand in front of your temple and sing abhangs, gaoni abhanga. And then he invites Panduranga and he says, come to the Chandrabhaga river, where you will see countless devotees, especially during this Ashada Ekadashi, where thousands and thousands of devotees come to Pandharpur, they're singing and dancing their praises. And they take a dip in the holy Chandrabhaga. He says, come there, and he says, your devotee Choka is standing there amongst them, singing your praises. So, and during this song, we will have certain parts where we would like you to join and say the Lord's name. So please do. Abhira Gulal.
Yeah. उंबरठ्यासी कैसे शिव आम्ही जातीहीन उंबरठ्यासी कैसे शिव आम्ही जातीहीन रूप तुझे कैसे पाहू त्यात आम्ही दीन पायरीशी हो कंठ गाऊनी अभंग पायरीशी हो कंठ गाऊनी अभंग गाऊनी अभंग रे रे माझा सगळा
Thank you everyone. I hope you enjoyed the program. I would like to first thank Krishna Murthy as always for encouraging us and giving us this opportunity to sing for you. So thank you Krishna Murthy uncle. And I would like to thank our accompanying artist, Bhavnesh ji. When I asked him, immediately said yes, and we never even practiced, and he came here, and he's amazing, he's an expert, so, you know, I think his harmony speaks for himself, so thank you, Bhavnesh ji. We would like to thank Shrikant ji. When I asked him again graciously, he accepted, even though he's so busy at work and teaching so many students, and I'm grateful to Shrikant ji for not just performing for us today, but for training my son to be able to play a 1-hour concert for us. So thank you so much. And we would also like to thank Saharsh. He put in a lot of effort to play for us today, and it's a great honor for him to be playing alongside his guru for the first time and playing for us too. So, and last but not least, me and Smriti would like to thank all of you for coming here, supporting us, and listening to us. So, thank you very much.
Thank you. I request all of you to do